understand, your group, over the past 10 years or so, has developed a process for workshopping poetry, for producing better writers. My question is, how does a video like this fit into that process?
That's a tough one. I think the model is valuable. I think in terms of group dynamics, this workshop represents a very good evolutionary model. Okay, I think it represents a whole series of ways of looking at ways of becoming artists. A lot of this stuff gets done all the time in different forms, and as far as the value for us of a video like this, I'm not sure there is that much, to tell you the truth. I mean, I think it's kind of artificial.
The surrealism, the craziness, the warp of the Midwest is important to me, and I like it, and I see that that tension that is there as being very important. Much more so than, say, the surrealism of New York or the surrealism of San Francisco. The Midwest is full of crazy people, you know, and a lot of those crazy people are poets.
Because they say we're not politicians. Now they're saying it only to be me.
We started.
We gave her several suggestions.
When we were near a college, the University of Michigan in Flint, Michigan, and we started, and there were no creative writing courses, and so we were a bunch of students who had been writing creative writing, not articles or anything, not non-fiction, but poetry, primarily. And we didn't have anywhere to go, and we didn't have anyone to talk to. When we started the workshop, none of us had been published anywhere. None of us had won any awards or anything like that for writing, and we're just kind of saying, well, I don't know where to go with this.
That's happened. That happened to you.
Anything else? There wasn't any, and there really never has been any strong organization or any bylaws or anything like that. Just who could talk to who more than anything else, and about what.
We didn't have anybody to talk to. So we talked to each other.
They said the one who accepted it, thank heaven, they
needed to have the name of the a name for the group of people, so that it was, I suppose, more identifiable. There were some of us that never really liked the idea of being called a group, because we knew once we adopted a name, the name would hang out more than we would. You know, the name would, Genesee Writers would get tossed around either for good or for ill. And we wouldn't. And we were egotistical people who wanted to be tossed around.
But the poetry at the readings, like the one...
Nazi war criminal being protected by Odessa.
Well, the point of starting Genesee Writers was, I think, there was a couple of these readings, this one in particular at the pub. And it was after that Josie and Joe and a number of other people got together and started this group. And it was like, I had gone to these readings and I had seen these people, and later, perhaps a year later, I found out that they were meeting once a week at Doobie's and workshopping, poetry.
Well, you'll hear about two bars, I guess, in the film. One is Doobie's and one is Hat's Pub. Both are no longer in existence because they've been bulldozed for urban renewal. And we did a lot of our mistakes there in both places, but we're very successful there eventually also.
You have to imagine you've got 4 of these oak tables all shoved together, and people all the way around it, all yammering at once, all getting themselves organized, and finally a quiet settles over the room. We start to discipline ourselves, and the question goes up, who's got stuff?
During the early years, it was meeting on an obsessional basis. It was once a week and they were knocked down, drag out. Nobody would ever say it's time to go home to begin with. You know, it was like we belabored the point immensely, just because it was as important to try to form a philosophy as it was to get any work done.
It has to be really obsessive. In fact, someone I was dating said, we had these meetings on Sundays, and they were like 4 and 8 hours. I mean, they just went on and on. Everybody brought everything, and whatever we had, we went through. And so if you had a short story that was 16 pages, and we went through it, you know, and made corrections and whatever we said. So they said, oh, you're going to poetry church.
Because there were very dedicated people with very dedicated interest at a particular moment that all suddenly came together. They all had an interest at one point or another, and there was probably a period of years where none of us were satisfied because none of us had the contact and the criticism and the camaraderie we needed. But then there is a point at which we get lucky enough to run into each other.
Oh, working with other people has been tremendously important with me. When I was at college, I didn't do an MFA, and I'm sort of against MFAs, but it also occurs to me that I had it lucky. When I was at college, there were all sorts of extraordinary poets who were undergraduates with me. Adrian Rich, Robert Bly, Frank O'Hara, John Ashbery, Kenneth Koch. And of course we were a kind of workshop, not being in creative writing classes together, just arguing together, which was marvelous. Yes, we didn't all like each other necessarily. Some of us did. But I still exchange poems with my friend Robert Bly, whom I met at college 38 years ago. And there are many others with whom I exchange poems. We criticize each other, we help each other. This is the workshop by mail, which is common. But in Ann Arbor, we had workshops, and of course there were creative writing classes, but I'm speaking of informal ones, though the connection it's not totally disconnected either. I remember meeting with Sheridan Baker and Radcliffe Squires and Ed Burroughs a good number of times, where we would bring manuscript and read each other and try to talk with each other. And it was a wonderful time. When I first arrived, X.J. Kennedy was a graduate student. And we would meet with Keith Waldrop and Rosemary Waldrop and Jim Camp, all in graduate school. And I was the only professor, but I wasn't older, or much older anyway. And we would read each other the work we were working on, hand around copies and so on, the usual workshop thing. But it was marvelous. I remember Joe Kennedy reading aloud and singing in a prominent bar in Secaucus one day. That was brand new. And I was editing the Paris Review at the time, and I said, can I have it? You know? And I got it for the Paris Review.